Welcome to Module 4B, Voyaging, Navigating to Volcanoes. In this lecture, we will discuss Hawaiian voyaging. We will learn about the history of modern voyaging, beginning with the wa'akaulua or canoe named Hokule'a. We will also learn traditional navigation techniques used by modern voyagers. These techniques are used as voyagers search for the highest points on an island, the summit of old volcanoes. One of the most special things about islands and island people is that we can still recall, as a part of our genealogy and history, the names of our first navigators. In Hawaii, these are the first ancestors that discovered Hawaii and upon discovery continued to navigate and sail across the Pacific. These were not one-way, one-time trips. I'm from Kailua, Oahu, the east side of the island, and our navigators were Ka'uluakalana and Paumakua. You may recall from last week's lecture that we discussed different oli about Pele. These oli or chants were interpreted by Pua Kanakaole Kanahele and Duke Kalani Wise in the manuscript Kahonua Ola. So today, just to help us normalize Olelo Hawaii and the stories of our people here in Hawaii, I'm going to read to you folks He Oli Huaka'i Pele. Mai ka hiki ka wahine o Pele, mai ka aina I pola pola, mai ka punohu ula a kane, mai ka ao lapa lapa I ka lani, mai ka opua lapa I ka hiki. Lapa kui Hawaii ka wahine o Pele, ka lai ka va'a honui a kea, ko va'a e kamo hoa li'i. I apo'a ka moku I pa'a, ua hoa ka va'o o kea kua, ka va'o o kane ka lai honua, holo mai ke ao, ae Pele honua mea, ae ka lani ai puni a I ka moku, ae kini o kea kua, noho ae o malao, ua ka ia ka liu o ka va'a, ia ka va'a ka hope ka liu o ka va'a e na hoa li'i. Ia Pele honua mea, ae ka hoe o luna o ka va'o, o ku ma laua o lono, o ku mau laua o lono, noho I ka honua aina, kau aku I ho'olewa moku, hiaka no iau he akua, kua'e hele o noho I ka hale o Pele, hua'i ka hiki lapa uila e Pele, e hua'i e. So the imagery of voyaging is abundant in this chant. This version of the migration chant of Pele starts from her homeland of Kahiki. The land of Pola Pola or Bora Bora is mentioned as a starting point for the Pele clan. In the Beckwith narrative, another interpretation, this migration saga Kahiki or Bora Bora was said to be her first stop. She embarks upon this leg of her journey with the signs and splendor of the god Kane. This is her first trip to Hawaii. The vessel made and secured for her by Kane Kalai Honua, the carver, was named Honu, and the va'a was named Honua Kia. After carving the canoe as described in lines 7 through 9, the time for sailing is right. Malao is given the task of emptying the bottom of the boat. The question is asked as the prestigious position of the steersman. Who should steer? Who should steer this canoe? And the response is Pele. As I mentioned previously, the imagery of voyaging is abundant in this chant and are highlighted in red. Recall that va'a is the name for a canoe, and you can see it's said multiple times throughout this oli or chant. The valuable information which this chant offers is the name of the canoe, the carver, the place of departure, and intended place of arrival. The names of travelers are Pele, Hiaka, Kamohoali'i, and Malao. So take note of some of those features that you see here because it will most likely be on the quiz. Now, if we transition to modern voyaging, the 1960s to 70s in Hawaii, we went through a period known as a cultural renaissance. Key to this movement was activism and restoration, repatriation of land, language, and cultural pride. A key component to this was reestablishing voyaging traditions and construction of Hawaii's pride and joy, the canoe hokulea. At this time, though, there were competing arguments as to how our first people came to Hawaii. In contradiction to our history as documented in chants like He Oli Huaka'i Pele, Western academics argued that our people drifted to Hawaii. You may recall the name Thor Heyerdahl and the raft Kon-Tiki. Thor argued that we drifted to Hawaii, and by doing so, people were inferring that we did not have the skill or intellect to purposely navigate, and as such, they diminished our value and our oral traditions. In Hawaii, one of our greatest teachers was Mau Piailug, or Papa Mau, a Micronesian navigator from the Carolinian island of Satawal. He is the teacher of the revitalization of modern Hawaiian voyaging and navigation. His first students in Hawaii include the group of men shown here in this image. From left to right, you see Kalepa Babayan, Shorty Bertelman, Nainoa Thompson, Chad Paishan, and Bruce Blankenfield. Collectively, these men have taught and inspired hundreds, if not thousands, of Hawaiians about navigation. In 1975, Hokulea was launched from the sands of Hakipu'u near Kualoa on the east side of Oahu. In 1976, she embarked on her first voyage, her first trip to Tahiti, shown in orange. This is a nearly 2,500 nautical mile journey, a trip that took over a month to complete. It is said that upon her arrival, nearly 15,000 Tahitians met Hokulea in the harbor at Papeete. This voyage inspired a revitalization in voyaging across Polynesia. Since 1976, Hokulea has sailed literally across the world, and in 2017, completed the Malama Honua Worldwide Voyage. I was fortunate enough to participate in multiple legs of this voyage. Here is a link to a short video that describes the worldwide voyage. Be sure to watch it as it may be on the quiz. So pause lecture now and take a look at this video at the link shown here on the screen. Hokulea is currently on another voyage named Moana Nui Akea. This is a 43,000 nautical mile voyage, 47 months around the Pacific, and it'll include approximately 400 crew members, 36 countries and archipelagos, nearly 100 indigenous territories, and 345 ports. The purpose of the voyage is to ignite a movement of 10 million planetary navigators who will pursue critical and inspiring voyages to ensure a better future for the Earth. The canoe is currently in Oregon and will be making their way down to California through the remainder of this year. So we're going to transition next, and we will begin to discuss in more detail what it is like to navigate a Hawaiian canoe. And if any of you are interested in learning more about navigation, the university does offer courses in navigation and voyaging through the Hawaiian Studies program. These courses are called Ho'okele, and if you do a quick search, you can find them and register for them. Ka'iulani Murphy is the kumu, or the teacher, and she is amazing. So next, take a look at this link here. This video will describe briefly Hawaiian navigation, as well as introduce you to some of the crew members and the places that we visited. I created this video here from clips from the Worldwide Voyage. As a voyager, sunrise is the most important time of the day because we know exactly where the sun rises and sets. Even on a cloudy day, you can generally see where the sun rises above the horizon. Here, I'm measuring the sun on the horizon as a means to orient the direction of the canoe. you see some really amazing sunrises when you're out in the middle of the ocean. Even on a cloudy day, you can generally see where the sun rises. I'll just emphasize that. So this is what the deck of Hokulea looks like. We also rely upon the wind to help us tell our direction. And the clouds give us clues as to how the weather changes. We also steer off of the moon and other celestial bodies like the stars and planets. Here we are sailing towards Rapa Nui, and we are looking for the peaks of their mountains, their volcanoes. This is what an island looks like as you approach it from the ocean. We are not always blessed with clear skies. We also experience, storms and weather. But throughout that process, even if the winds begin to shift, we generally have consistent swells, a consistent northeast swell or southeast swell, depending upon which hemisphere you're in, which is created by the trade winds. So here's Uncle Bruce. He was one of the students of Papa Mao. He's now one of our main teachers. And as you get close to the islands, you really start to pay attention to the swell. So here I'm working with Pomai, one of our female captains, to search for the direction of the swell. As you get close to an island, the swells can change. The dominant swell can change as islands block the swells. So when it's cloudy, if you cannot see the heavens, you can still steer off of the swells and the wind. Here we're looking at the Southern Cross or neve to help us get a fix off of latitude. We can measure our latitude based upon the height of the stars above the horizon. And this was our navigation team under the direction of Kaiulani Murphy, the navigation teacher at UH. And this was from a sail when we sailed back from Tahiti to Hawaii. So I hope this gives you just a little bit of an idea of what it's like to be on a canoe, as well as some of the things that we look for when we're navigating. So we're going to just go into that in a little more detail. As I mentioned before, sunrise and sunset are the most important times of the day. Hint, this will most likely be a question on your quiz because it's extremely important. The rising and setting points of celestial bodies like the sun, moon, stars, and planets are used to determine direction while out at sea. You can see here we're measuring a constellation. If we highlight it, you can see it's the Southern Cross, also known as Neve or Hanai Kamalama in Hawaiian. Seabirds generally do not indicate land or direction because they can live out on the ocean for months, if not years at a time. However, smaller birds like the manuoku are indicators of land because these birds fish during the day and return to their nests in the evening to feed their chicks. You most likely will see this bird pretty frequently in urban Honolulu. You can also see them across campus, living in trees. When we're on a canoe, we generally eat pretty well. You really love your fishermen. Here on the right are some images of some of the things that we've found in the bellies of the fish that we eat. And unfortunately, sometimes we do find plastic and rubbish. Clouds and swells are observed to monitor changes in weather. During the day when the sun gets too high in the sky, ocean swells are monitored to determine direction. And in the final days of a voyage, the navigators search for an island. we search for volcanoes. So here you can see there's a faint shadow on the horizon, and that's actually Haleakala on Maui. She's about 10,000 or 3,000 meters tall. Surprisingly, when we sailed home from Tahiti, we sailed past Mauna Kea, past Mauna Loa, the highest mountains in Hawaii. And the reason for that is they create their own weather, so they're oftentimes hidden in the clouds. They can also become obscured from fog if Kilauea is erupting, like now. So we saw Maui before we saw Hawaii Island. Here is an image of what we saw when we sailed to Rapa Nui or Easter Island. And on the left, you can see Katiki or Poike, and on the right, you can see Terevaka. Here is a smaller island. This is Nihoa in Papahanaumokuakea, and this was the first island that we typically navigate to as you're learning navigation. So this is Nihoa in Hawaii. And here is an atoll. So if you can recall, an atoll island is a low-lying island. All of the volcanic basalt material is underneath the surface of the ocean. So when you navigate towards an atoll island, you're actually searching for the tips of the coconut trees because these are the highest points on the land. So you can see this hazy, uneven surface on the horizon, and that itself are the trees that you're searching for. And that's it. So be sure to complete your quiz 4B, now that you've finished watching this lecture.